Well, I hate to say I told you so, Bengals fans, but I definitely told you so. Welcome to Inside the Jungle. Oh, what's a way to end the season, right, Bengals fans? Bengals fall to the Ravens in spectacular fashion. 38-3. That's 6 points against the Ravens this year, folks. Count them. 6 of them. And the Bengals end the year 4-11-1. So we're going to talk about the game from the weekend. We're going to also discuss the coaching staff changes, some of the surprises that are staying, and some of the folks that are leaving. And last but not least, we know now that the Bengals will be drafting, I believe it's fourth now. And so what do the Bengals do at this position? We shall see. If you're watching us live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you, Bengals fans. If you're listening to us after the fact, as always, you can get in touch with us inside the jungle pod at gmail.com. Or you can follow us on Twitter as well at Inside Jungle Pod. Let's welcome in my cast of characters for this week, my Bengal brethren. I will start with the one and only Beam Me Up Scott Bantel. Scott, what's going on, buddy? Happy New Year.
Nick, Happy New Year. Playing hurt tonight. Got 2 sick kids, so I'm tired, hence the glasses. But unlike the Bengals defensive line, I will make an effort. I will try, and I plan on earning my stripes tonight.
Fair enough. Glad to have you on the show. As always, enjoy your take. AC over on the West Coast, the best coast. How are you, buddy? Happy New Year.
All right, Scott, the cliche machine Bantel over there. Good Lord, earning stripes and all kinds of good stuff. Good to be with you guys as always. Nick, I hate to correct you right off the bat, my friend. The Bengals are picking 5th.
I knew it. I was a 1 and 2.
Yeah, I hate to do that to you. But otherwise, I'm doing all right. It's a new year. Thankfully, 2020 is behind us, and that debacle of a Bengals season is behind us. How are you doing? You hanging in there?
I'm hanging in there. It could have been 4th. It could have been higher. I think
I know. They were in the running for it before day's end, yeah.
If only the Texans could play defense, right?
Yeah.
If only. Oh, of course, we should have known that they can't.
Right. Given the week prior, right.
So we'll hopefully be joined a little bit later on in the show by Mickey. As always, enjoy getting his thoughts on what's gone down with the Bengals, especially this past weekend. So if you listened to last week's show, guess what? I called it. I said the Bengals were going to lose. I also said they were going to get shut out. I was pretty darn close there, folks. They managed 3 points. And oh my goodness, did the defense not show up. So, Scott, why don't you start us off? Your best and worst from the weekend.
Ooh, best. Just simply season's over. Favorite time of the year for me, which is draft season. That's pretty much it. I guess draft season and the fact that next time the Bengals are on TV, hopefully we get to see Joe Burrow back. So that's always a good thing. Worst, there's so many different spots we could go with this one. I'll say first and foremost would be the injury to Trey Hopkins. He's the one guy along the offensive line that has been healthy all year, but also, played at least fairly well. I think we'd all agree. To get an injury like that in a meaningless game, I'm guessing that puts his season for next year in jeopardy, especially with an offensive lineman. So, that was kind of a big blow to a unit that's already bad. The second worst, I would say, was just the statement released by Mike Brown. Just, couldn't be more tone deaf. It appeared as like a kind of like a pointing at the fans of, hey, you wanted us to do this. We did it. Now look what happened type thing. Just a terrible look. I mean, PR 101. I don't understand how that got by anyone in the Bengals front office, how nobody took a look at that and said, Mike, maybe we should edit this one just a little bit. This doesn't come off good. So those would be my worst, the injury to Hopkins and just the tone deafness of the franchise.
All right. AC, how about you?
Hard to pick a best. I guess best would be that the game was over. It's just done. I mean, that's really the only thing you can take away from it. The Bengals were outscored in their 2 games against the Baltimore Ravens. I think 65-6 or something to that effect, Nick. So they're not even competing with Baltimore at this point. I guess there's multiple worse that I could throw out there. You know, the rushing yards that they let up, the franchise worst, I think it was 404 yards. It's also the fourth most rushing yards given up by any defense since 1950. That was a stat that was thrown up on that telecast there. So that's pretty awful. And look, one of the things, Scott picked a couple of good ones too. One of the things that I was, even if they weren't going to win the game, aside from hopefully having a good showing and showing some effort, one of the things I was looking forward to is seeing a couple of Bengals receivers kind of chase, actually a few of them chase kind of just some milestones. Just give us something to be pleased about going into next year. You had Tyler Boyd kind of close to 1,000 yards. T. Higgins could have set the rookie reception record and potentially get 1,000 yards. A.J. Green, if he grabbed 2 touchdowns against a team he had normally dominated throughout most of his career, he would have had the franchise record in receiving touchdowns for a career. You know, give us something. T. Higgins gets hurt on one of the first plays of the game. A.J. Green's a complete non-factor, as is Tyler Boyd. So, that to me is just you can't even get a morsel of something positive from this team in 2020. But, I mean, there's a lot of others I guess I could list out, but I'll stop right there.
All right. Well, Mickey, you've joined us. We appreciate you being on, buddy. Your best and worst from this weekend?
I mean, like, AC just said, the best is Slim Pickens, right? I'm going to fire at Travion Williams for, 4 runs, 75 or 74 yards. That's a positive. That's about all I could pull from that game. The worst was just the way that this team showed up and had lack of anything. I mean, the Higgins injury was unfortunate because, he had a big catch on the play. He got hurt. That was pulled back, on a penalty. But the rest of this performance was just so pathetic. It was insanely weak. And I was riding the high from, the Buckeye win, Nick. So I was like, oh yeah, like this will be a great, capper. And yeah, it was just crap. So, yeah, that's about all I got. There's not much else to say. I was fully on the boat of fire everyone after that game because it was just it's not an anomaly. It was just kind of the cherry on the top of just a pathetic 2 years that we've had.
Yeah, it's hard to argue that, right? I mean, I look at for me the worst is how do you give up 400 yards rushing? 400 yards.
I guess a positive, Nick. We didn't give up. We didn't let them beat our record. So what were they, like 5 yards short of being the Bengals single game rushing record? Did you see that? I think we're at 407. They were at 401 or something like that.
I did not know that.
And when they got the ball back at the end, we're running. I'm like, great, this is ridiculous. Like we're just going to hand it to them here and let them break our record, but they didn't. So there's my positive.
All right. I don't have anything positive to say. Nothing, no best. My worst is, again, 400 yards rushing against the Ravens. That's just – I know that the defense is depleted. I know the defensive line, they lose DJ Reader. They lose Geno Atkins. But, really, they didn't have Geno all year long. It's just disheartening to see that, you give up 400 yards rushing. Lamar Jackson didn't have to throw it at all. I think he barely passed for 100 yards in this game. So, just good gracious. Did not expect the season to end. Look, I said last week on the show that I thought they were going to get shut out. I didn't know that they were going to give up 400 yards rushing and 38 points. I just don't get it. I really don't get it. And the fact that, and we can touch on this a little bit as well, the fact that you're bringing back your defensive coordinator who blew multiple leads this year and gave up way too many points. You got just some real questionable moves by the front office. And so, yeah, just really disappointing. We do have phone lines open. So this is your chance, Bengals fans, to have your say. What are your best and worst from this weekend? You can get in touch with us. 513-572-7757 is the number to call. let's get us started early, right? Area code 305. Hi, who's this?
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen, man? You know, it's Fatal Content. Man. How's
What's up?
everything?
What's going on, Fatal? Happy New Year, buddy.
Happy New Year to you guys, man. How's everything?
Well, it could be better.
Yeah, Bengals-wise, it could be.
Yeah.
Ugh, I just don't, it feels like we watched, I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's my observation, but it feels like we've watched 4 seasons in one, man. It was the anticipation of Joe. It was having Joe, watching him do well. Then it was not having Joe. Then it's, you know, the losing that came with it. Then it was, okay, beat the Steelers and beat the Texans, and then come back and just like I thought. I mean, we come back and just come back down to earth because we weren't going to have that incentive every week to beat the Steelers. So it's you know, something you ask yourself why those 2 wins come in the first place. What are we going to do with the coaching staff? It feels like it's been a really long season, man, longer than most.
I'm all for, and there was a big debate on social media, Fatal. Some of us here on the show debated whether or not the wins were good. But I'm wondering if those 2 wins against the Steelers and the Texans prolong the inevitable, right? I mean, if there's any, I just don't see this group of coaches and this coaching staff being around for the long haul, right? I mean, there's no evidence to show you, yeah, you beat the Steelers on Monday night, but the Steelers were crap at that point, right? I mean, the Steelers were absolute terrible. They lost 4 of the last 5 games.
I don't know. I don't know if I buy that one, right? Like the Bengals that played the Steelers, that was a good game. You know,
Okay.
they played over their skis probably, but they played well. And yeah, they caught the Steelers when the Steelers were down, but they were hitting hard. They didn't make mental errors. Like that's what's so frustrating about this one, right? Like this is 2 steps forward, 55 steps back. Or should I say 3 steps forward, 38 steps back.
Right.
Like it was so weak. And then to follow it up, and I know I jumped in late, but Scott was talking about it with the statement from Mike Brown. Like some of the quotes, like we're not discouraged, but instead feel motivated. Like what is not discouraging about the way you ended there? Like you completed 3 passes to 3 different wide receivers in a game. The tight ends that no one knows are, carrying this team in that. It's just so bad. You completed 6 of 21 like there's nothing that you're leaving that game like, yes, like something to build upon. And then you see so many teams firing coaches, and there was a couple surprises. I don't know. Like that's what's so frustrating, I think. I didn't mean to cut off Fatal's time, but
Fatal, you got anything to add there? You surprised they're coming back?
That's awesome. I'm glad he did. I mean, that was a good analysis. He pretty much said what I thought. That's just what I was thinking. It's just demoralizing. It's like, where do you go from here? It's like, I see nothing in the coaching staff to make me want to keep them. But they're probably saying, oh, well, they did enough because we had injuries. But it's like, I don't know, man. I just don't know where to go from here. And it's like, it's easy to say fire the coach, but who do you hire? Unless it's Bieniemy or however you say his name. But he's the only guy that I would really be kind of hype about. But then that's another brand new guy. And you have Joe Burrow coming out and saying what a quarterback's supposed to say. Oh, I like our future going forward. It's like, what? I'm glad he feels that way. That was kind of a positive. But I'm like, what are you watching, Joe? But I guess it's better than him saying, oh, my gosh, where are we going? I don't like the direction we're going in. That would have sounded worse. But
yeah, what is he supposed to say there, right? I mean,
exactly.
I mean, yeah, that's great.
He could have been crickets like Carson Palmer. Remember, what was that back in 2010 when they brought back Lewis, where it was just crickets. You're looking for something from the quarterback, and it was crickets.
Well, in Palmer's defense, think about when he had his knee injury. Like that was insanely exciting. He left the stadium, and he's sending out messages of how he's going to get back before the next. Like that was awesome, right? But he got beat down by the machine. Joe Burrow's still young. He's excited. He thinks he can take on the world, and so that's what we're getting.
Hopefully, he can. My
wife said, do you look at him and feel bad for where he's going to be in 5 years? And I'm like, man, I hope not.
Yeah. AC, you got any thoughts?
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here listening to you guys, and all great points. I mean, to some of what Mickey said there, this loss wasn't just embarrassing. It was embarrassing on your own home field, right? I mean, this is, and I know that the stands and the crowd noise and all that stuff isn't really as much of a factor, but this is at home, and you score 3 points at home. It's just embarrassing. And, you know, to me, with this statement by Mike Brown, and I'm sure we'll get into a discussion about the coaches, who was retained, who wasn't. It's just not good enough. And the fact that Mike Brown that there's just not really an accountability. I understand those 2 wins towards the end of the season kind of told you a bit about the coaching staff and maybe some of the players in that locker room. But when you give up 400 rushing yards to a division foe, and like I mentioned earlier, I think it was 65-6, they've been outscored by the Baltimore Ravens this year. Go back to all the games the last couple of seasons. And, you know, it's just the fact that they're okay with some of these, and they embed the injury excuse, they embed some of these other excuses into their rationale to keep some of these guys. It's maddening. It really is maddening. And, you know, I can live with maybe one of the guys sticking around, the head coach, and maybe some other guys, but the head coach and basically all of his top assistants sound like they're sticking around. The lower level assistants are the ones that are kind of falling on the sword here. And to me, that's just not good enough. It's just not good enough. What we've seen the past 2 years is just not good enough. And, you know, like I said, I know we'll talk more about that, but, you know, kind of hearing Fatal's conversation, what you guys are saying, that's kind of where my head's at right now.
Fatal, are you on one of the, I'm assuming you're one of those guys that is ready to clean the house and start over?
Yeah, man, I'm ready to. I don't have any analysis, guys. I'm sorry. That's who we should get besides who I said. But yeah, man, I rather a brand new start with anyone other than what we have. I mean, it's what's the direction? What's the identity? I don't care who's not here and who. I don't really see any of that. That really doesn't matter. I need a brand new start. I need them to spend money on the O-line. I need them to draft some weapons for Joe, and I just need some competence. I think it's really all we want, man.
Yeah.
Just a little bit of competence, because it's just inconsistent. It's kind of like what Stephen A. Smith says about the Cowboys. I mean, whatever can go wrong does go wrong. It kind of seems to be. I think the Bengals started that, to be honest.
Probably so, buddy. Well, we appreciate the call, Fado, as always. I'm looking forward to talking to you throughout the offseason, because we got to know all about those Miami kids that you know, the Bengals won't draft.
Oh man, tell me about it. I want us to get, as long as we get the kicker. I need us to get Borregales, and I need us to.
I'm on board.
Try to get maybe try. It depends on who comes back, but we got a couple of D linemen coming out. Maybe we can get number 15 on a discount, but you know, Russo will probably be going soon. But yeah, man, I'm about to get on the PlayStation 5 and go on Madden and win the Super Bowl on there, so I can see what it's like to watch the Bengals win.
All right, buddy. Appreciate the call, man.
All right, guys. You have a good one.
You
man.
too. That's Fatal Content starting us off here tonight on Inside the Jungle. We've got a couple of bests and worsts here in the chat. This one is from Ben Reed. Ben, if I said your name wrong, I apologize. He says his best is Marcus Hunt's emergence as a backup defensive tackle. Worst is Hopkins' injury. Marcus Hunt joined the team middle of the season, but yeah, he was, I mean, you could honestly say he was probably a bright spot amongst a few on the defensive side of the ball, gents.
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. Him and Mike Daniels pressed into more action than we thought. I would say stepped up pretty well.
And it's insanely effective, and good linemen do this often. Just get your hands up when the pass is coming, and you disrupt a couple balls. That's game altering, and so I love seeing that from him. Marcus Hunt's a physical freak, so it'd be good to
he's not going to cost you a lot,
right? And like he's probably not going to be your star or your starter even, but a guy to have in there in certain situations is good.
I laughed when they brought him back. Personally,
yeah.
I mean, I was just like, what are we doing here, right? And all of a sudden, they've moved him inside a little bit. He's played on the edge a little bit. He's made a couple of nice tackles for loss, and in those 2 wins, really, he had a couple of nice batted balls that turned into turnovers, that sort of thing. So, I'm sorry, it wasn't the 2 wins. It was actually against Pittsburgh, and then I think this last week against Baltimore. But yeah. I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised, and I think honestly, quietly, Mike Daniels has been a very nice piece on this defense, and I think him being out last week made a pretty big difference in terms of what you saw in the run game.
Yeah,
we could have easily held him under 400 yards rushing with Mike Daniels.
375 for sure.
Scott, you got anything to add there?
No, they said it all. I mean, I think the thing with Marcus Hunt, I also left when they brought him back, but I think his return has actually been better than the first go round. I think he's been more effective in this stint with the Bengals than he was in his first stint. I don't know if the coaching staff was just using him more effectively. Maybe he grew a bit, but I felt like he was at least a good contributor since he's come back.
All right, let's go back to the phone, shall we? Let's go to Hank in South Carolina. Hank, what's going on, buddy? Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, guys. Good to talk to you. First of all, I want to congratulate the Buckeyes fans for their victory. Maybe now I don't have to hear about the Fiesta Bowl anymore. For the past year, it's been nothing about excuses about that game. And, you play the game, you either win it or lose it. And, if you lose it, you got to move on. And I'm still hearing about, even after they won this game, they're still talking about the Fiesta Bowl. It's like, just focus on Bama, go beat Bama. And, that should be your focus instead of trying to, I don't know, bait us Clemson fans. Because, if we win, it's great. We're not going to put your face in the mud. And if you lose, if we lose, we're going to congratulate you and wish you good luck. So that's the way it should be.
I have no room to talk. My
as far
Irish
as
didn't show
Bengals-
up against Bama, and I knew they wouldn't.
Yeah, no, exactly. So as far as the game goes, I think that Higgins' play and the Thomas penalty was a huge factor in the game, because that was a 39-yard reception. And then unfortunately for T, he lost well over 100 yards this year, receiving yards because of penalties. Easily would have had over 1,000 yards. And then also Burrow going out and him missing 5 games, having 5 games without him. That also, otherwise he would have easily made 1,000 yards. And I think that's probably the biggest plus on the season, that getting a second-round pick and then realizing that you got first-round talent and somebody that's going to be with you probably at least, 10 years. Because just when I saw him line up for that 39-yard pass, I saw him at 6'4", 220 against the cornerback who was probably like 5'9". He was towering over the guy and had to have at least 40 pounds on the guy. And it's like, how is this guy going to even contain him? Because he's so much bigger. And, that's a weapon they can use. Because I'm actually pretty excited about the future of the Bengals. So if I were GM, what I would do is, you got Boyd, Higgins, and Burrow. That's something good to work with. So then I would take Pitts, because he's going to be a tight end, 6'6", 265, and can run like a wide receiver. He's going to be able to create huge mismatches and open up the defense for the wide receivers. And I think Burrow will just have a field day. And then with the second pick, I think you take another wide receiver, since only Boyd is under contract besides Higgins and Tate. Higgins and Boyd are the only ones under contract. So there's 2 possibilities: either Terrence Marshall out of LSU, or if you watch the Sugar Bowl, Cornell Powell. He's the one that incinerated Sean Wade, who's going to be a top 15 pick, and just made him look foolish with those moves. There was that one where he had him turned around and Wade just fell down because he basically broke his ankles on the play. And he's a great route runner, and he also has been making some spectacular catches, one-handed catches on the sidelines, and really stepped up. He had like 5 100-yard games to close out the season. So I think that you get Burrow as weapons. Free agency, you go after some offensive linemen, and at least get a high-powered offense for next season. I think it's going to be a 2-year process. I don't know if you can just go from where the Bengals are at now to the playoffs, but at least get your offense there. And then the next season they can concentrate more on the defense. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but at least if you got a great offense and not that boring stuff where we're just like running the ball when everybody knows we're going to run the ball and then those short passes and nothing down the field. At least if they give us an exciting offense where we're scoring 30 or 40 points a game, that's going to keep people interested and excited. Texans fans, I'm sure they're super excited, even though they didn't make the playoffs, because the way Deshaun Watson excelled and then Brandon Cooks, that's an exciting team to watch that puts up a lot of points. And we don't want to see these games like there was Sunday. Although I do think that play had a big impact, and the air was sucked out of the stadium after that, and the team just kind of dropped its shoulders. And you hate to say they gave up, but sure looked like it to me.
No.
And just like to hear what you guys have to think.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll go wide receiver 1 and 2. That would be kind of surprising if you ask me. I do think. I guess you said Pitts at tight end in the first round. Technically he's more of he could be a wide receiver, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. That's a tough call there, gents. We know they need offensive line help. We know that there's they're not going to have AJ Green next year. We're losing a couple of other receivers. Not that these guys were major impact receivers, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anybody chime in? Hank, you stumped them.
Bengals have 4 impending free agents at wide receiver. 4. They have 4 impending free agents at wide receiver. AJ Green, Alex Erickson, Mike Thomas, and who else am I missing here? I've said this a bunch. John Ross. John Ross is the other one. Yeah. So, they're going to have 4 vacancies there, whether you want to fill that at number 5 with a true wide receiver or a guy like Kyle Pitts. I can see the merits in both. My thing is, if you draft a wide receiver at number 5, I think I said this maybe last week, but if you draft one of these guys, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, who, by the way, just won the Heisman Trophy tonight, if you draft one of those guys at number 5, you sure as hell better believe that you're getting another AJ Green or that type of production out of a guy like that if you're going to pick him there. If you draft a guy like Pitts, you better hope and pray that you've got a plan to be able to use a guy like that and use him properly. Use him in the red zone, use him to extend drives, and move the chains on third down. The Bengals seem to like to go for it on fourth down more frequently under Zach Taylor. So, even that way. So my thing is that you got to have a plan for some of these guys. And I feel like some of these players that the Bengals have picked with high picks, like a John Ross, they look good on paper. They've got all these skills, and they don't have a plan in terms of how to properly use them. And I don't know what happened with John Ross, aside from being injured and everything, but he has disenfranchised himself with 2 different coaching staffs now. So they need to figure out something at wide receiver and get Joe Burrow some weapons. But all of this will be predicated on what they do in free agency.
Yeah, I think that's the key.
What do you guys see as the future? Oh,
I was just going to say, it's so hard.
Go ahead, Scott.
I was just going to say, it's so hard to predict where they could or should go right now, because I think it all depends on free agency, right? If they do address the offensive line efficiently or effectively in free agency, I think that really opens up where they could go with that pick. If they don't address the offensive line, I hate to say you pigeonhole yourself into having to take a position. But man, if you don't address that offensive line in free agency, you almost have to take an offensive lineman with that first pick. So I think it really all hinges on where do they go and what holes do they fill in free agency, because Lord knows they got a lot of holes to fill.
I just want to know what you guys also think. Do you think Jonah Williams has sold you that he's going to be a steady, reliable guy that's going to be able to be in there, or or is it still up in the air?
He's good for a couple games this season,
I guess.
Yeah, no, because I did. If he doesn't work out, that creates a lot of problems. He was a high draft pick that was a tackle that hasn't worked out. It's almost better, I think, for the offensive lineman to address that in free agency, because you've got guys that are established, and those guys that are established usually can have good long 10, 12-year careers as offensive linemen. Whereas when you draft somebody, you just don't know if they're going to work out. And I think it's a lot easier to determine those things at other positions. It's, we've seen at least as many misses for first-round linemen as we've seen guys that have been successful. So it's kind of a risky thing to take an offensive lineman because we see with Jonah Williams, like, what do we got,
Yeah, we'll see what happens, man. Hank, appreciate the call as always, buddy. Happy New Year.
Yeah. Happy New Year, and you guys have a great show. It's been a great season, and hopefully it'll be bigger and better next year.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, buddy. That's Hank down in South Carolina giving us a ring. Talk a little smack about Shaun Wade, Mickey. A lot of fans, at least the Buckeye fans I know, thought he had a pretty rough year anyway. So I don't know if that was a surprise that Wade struggled the other night.
No, not a surprise at all.
Moving on, shall we?
Yeah, it's a tangent, but I thought the analysis around the way he plays was spot on, right? And good teams or good coaches find ways to exploit the little nuances to people's games, and I think they found his, which is good to see before
Sure.
people take chances on him.
Sure, absolutely. All right, let's talk about the statement Mike Brown made, gents. Wow. You read it. I'm not going to read the whole statement here. You can go find it online if you want to, but
you asked for this, Nick. You asked for this. You as a fan asked for this.
I did.
That's what he said.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, Mickey, I don't know. What did you think?
It's tone deaf. I mean, like we talked about earlier, that first line is rough, right? And our man Josh Kirkendall's throwing some things out there around under Mike Brown. Take Marvin Lewis out of the equation. He's just absolutely terrible records. And saying, oh, the fans asked for this. We wanted a young, energetic coach. This is what we're building. It was so bad. And then, at the end saying things like, we'll build on this. Next year's our year, earn our stripes. Like, it was just so bad. I want someone to come out and say, man, we sucked. It's unacceptable. I've talked with Zach. We have a plan to get better, and this is what we're going to do. Like, the only thing that was missing is in his last tone deaf one when we were so bad, and he offered a free box of popcorn with the season ticket purchases.
I remember that.
Not even per game, just one per the season. Like, he misses the mark so bad on these. I don't know why they let him push him out, but yeah. I mean, I'm curious to hear Scott and AC's take on it.
Yeah, that's what I was saying, at the start of the show, which was my bad, is the fact that, there's a whole organization here too, right? Katie and Troy Blackburn, from what we've heard have kind of taken over. And the big question I look at with this is, how did this get past all of those people before it made it out? How was no one able to say, Mike, this is a terrible statement. This may be what you want to send out, but this is terrible. We're going to rewrite it. Like, this should have never made it out. I mean, you can go through this line by line. Our fans wanted a fresh new direction. What about the organization? Did the organization not want a fresh new direction? Like, don't put that on the fans. Don't say that we aim to do what the fans want.
But he also
how you wanted to win championships, right?
He's also bullish on the foundation that Zach is building.
That was like one of the few statements I didn't have a problem with. That I'm looking at these other ones where he's talking about we added many new starters and contributors. Who gives a shit? Did they do anything? Right? I mean, you still have only won 6 games, so it doesn't matter who you added. The fact of the matter is the results of what you added was 6 wins. Same thing with invested heavily in free agency. Again, it netted you what? 6 wins.
But
so,
AC's about to school us, right? In defense, I hope so, because this is your territory. I'm stepping in right now. Some of the talent they did pull in the offseason, we never got to experience, right? Like, unfortunately, people were hurt. So maybe, I don't know. I could have swallowed that line better if the tone of the rest of it would have met that. Like, we made moves last off. We were active in free agency last year. We intend to do the same this year.
Well, including we acquired a talented young quarterback with a bright future. A talented young quarterback, which we didn't surround with an offensive line, and we broke him.
And you got him because you sucked. You were the worst team last year. That's why you got him. I mean,
Right.
Come on. It's unbelievable. And look, this organization in general makes it so difficult on its fan base to root for this organization, especially when they come out with phrases like this. And I know I'm the guy on Twitter that I'm not always Mr. Rainbows and Sunshine when I talk about the Bengals. I try and be a little bit objective. Some people have said I quote unquote hate watch when I tweet about the Bengals, and that's fine. That's funny. I praise them when they do something great. I was all about the praise this spring when they were signing Mike Daniels and DJ Reader and Von Bell. I was praising the hell out of them because they went out of their comfort zone, and I'm like, maybe Zach's pushing harder. And they're leading to people. And you come out, you have a season like this, you come out with this statement, and I think you said it, Mickey, about, hey, this is what you wanted. You wanted a young, energetic coach. This is what you wanted. You wanted us to spend money in free agency. This is what you wanted. It was like a total passing of the buck of blame and accountability.
And that's exactly your concern too, Anthony, as you've said that before with the free agency, is like, you're worried because they spent this money and those guys got hurt, and you're worried that they're going to tuck back into the shell. And that's exactly what you've said that for a long time.
And that statement that at the end of that first paragraph where they talk about we spent in free agency, and it was basically like, you wanted us to spend money in free agency. Well, look what happened. Everybody got injured. Well, Did they get injured because maybe you didn't invest properly in athletic training and rehab and indoor practice facilities and all of that? Maybe your investments aren't, protected like your quarterback, right? I mean, it just, when I saw that, it was like, there was just no, hey, it's not good enough. We didn't do what we needed to do. We fell way short of the bar. We're going back to the drawing board, and we are starting from zero. We like what's being built, but it's not there yet. We got a lot more work to do. And that's basically all you really needed to say. And then your actions in these next few months would hopefully back up those words. I don't know what's going to happen now in free agency. There's talk that they may be aggressive after offensive linemen in free agency. I think Lindsey Patterson, Cincinnati media member, kind of talked about that. I don't know how valid that is, but I don't know. I just, it was very, very disappointing to see that reaction in those words from Mike Brown.
To me, this is worse than 2010 when they basically said nothing and just brought back Lewis. Like, I would have rather them not said anything and just brought Zach Taylor back than release this statement. Because like you said, this is crap. The only thing that I don't have a problem with, actually, Mickey, is the foundation of the Zach Taylor, because I'm not convinced that he's a terrible coach yet. I know that sounds a little crazy, but like, that's the only piece of this that doesn't, get my blood boiling. That's like the one piece that I'm like, well, maybe.
You're not convinced? Because I am.
I'm the guy
They've still won some games.
Remember, I picked us to go 6-2 in the second half, and I still stand by. I do think they would have gone 5-3 worst had Burrow stayed healthy. Now we can say it was Zach Taylor who put together the line and the team that got him hurt. That's fair. I'll listen to that argument, but I still believe if Burrow's healthy, they beat Washington, they beat New York, they beat Miami, and I do think that Dallas game goes different.
Do they beat Pittsburgh?
That's a valid point. Maybe they don't, but even if we're talking about a 7-8-1 team or a 6-9-1 team, I think we do feel a little bit different, right? So I don't know.
I don't know. And
I'd be curious.
This game,
this was not a team that was going to be turned around in 1 year. I do think they could have done better in 2 years. This is a bad team that he took over.
Now we're talking still. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of chatter of we're still two years away from the full rebuild. Well, we're 2 years in.
I'm not saying that.
I know, but I've seen a lot of people on Twitter say that we're still this can't be fixed in one off season. Well, you've had 2 full off seasons already to try and fix the damn thing, and you've got 6 wins and a tie to show for it over 2 seasons. So
Marvin Lewis win 8 games in his first year.
yes,
Yeah, I mean, he can't come out and go like 2-4 to start the season. I mean, he's got to win games. The leash on Taylor next year, bringing him back, has got to be short.
you see the schedule, who they play. So far, I mean, not the schedule, but the opponents.
Is it bad? I thought it was the NFC North. That's not bad.
They've got the AFC West.
Yeah, they've got the and the Packers. Yeah, I mean it's rough. It's rough. So they got to turn things around quick. By the way, they play. They're sorry, Mick. The 3 teams in their division. First time since divisional realignment. I saw this from Andrew Siciliano. First time since divisional realignment in 2002 that a division had 3 teams that had 11 wins. So that's another thing that's just on their annual schedule.
Well, everyone but the Bengals was gifted 4 wins, known as the NFC East.
Yeah.
Except for the Bengals, right? This would have been the one year to take advantage of the NFC least, and they didn't.
I cut you off, Mickey. I'm sorry.
No, I just when they were talking about, I don't know if it was today, the last couple of days, everyone's been kind of talking about the schedule next year. I saw you say you were gonna attend a couple games. AC, I've got the same ones. I got the same ones marked on my calendar.
Nice.
Going to Vegas?
Yeah, I want to see that stadium.
Nice.
Will they let people in it?
That's the question. That is the question.
Hopefully that's a December game. I'd much rather go to Vegas in December than I would in September. It's probably hotter in September, right?
The stadium looks cool. I mean, that's what I'm about.
Yeah. I guess we shouldn't be worried about the heat in a dome, but you don't think the Raiders are that good?
No, I don't.
Well, they're much better than the Bengals.
I don't know. I'm not sure they really are. I've watched them a couple of times this year. I'm not sure they are.
Well, yeah, we'll see. I don't know. It's going to be a rough year. And you're right. I can't see if he goes 2-4 to start the year.
You ready? You ready for this, Nick?
Yeah.
It may not be a rough year. I mean, our schedule is brutal. Our home games, I'm looking at it right now, are tough. But, yeah. I mean, the Bengals, this is me flipping the script on you a little bit, are dealing with a ton of injuries, right? And say Jonah Williams has just had a rough start to a great career. When he was healthy, he played well, right? Like, you put a couple other pieces there, shore up the line, you get Mixon back, you have Burrow. There's potential here. Like, we do have a draft. We have some, we'll do something in free agency. This team can turn around.
Did you just do Mike Brown on us?
We'll do something.
Well, they're getting Trey Waynes back, right? They'll get DJ Reader back. The problem is with the offensive line, like you mentioned, Mick, 2 late season, pretty significant knee injuries to their 2 best offensive linemen, and Trey Hopkins and Jonah Williams. Thank God Jonah Williams didn't tear anything. I think at least that was the report, but Trey Hopkins did.
Who was the lineman that tore his knee in week 10 and came back the next year just recently? Guard.
For the Bengals?
For the Bengals?
Yeah.
Bowling?
That's true.
Like, so a lineman can come back. Plus, they got those freaking metal knees they put in there anyway. So I don't know. Like, it's crazy. I'm flipping my hat around, putting on the optimism hat. Like, there is reason, which I guess why this last loss hurt so bad is because any of the momentum that we thought like may be coming was just destroyed in that last game. But I don't know. Like, this team could turn it around. This team could be pretty competitive next year. Our schedule is brutal. I mean, we got the Packers and Chiefs at home. I mean, obviously the Steelers, the Ravens, and the Browns, the Chargers.
I mean, you could be looking at new quarterbacks, though, in Chicago, Detroit, Denver,
Jacksonville.
Jets, Jacksonville. I mean,
I see what you're saying, Mickey, and I agree with a lot of it, especially because a lot of guys will be returning from injury, right, from significant injury, and some of their best players, right? I think we're all kind of hanging our hat on that at this point. I guess what I'm really frustrated with is, like you said, how the last game ended and then the response from ownership. What you want as a fan base is to feel like, you know what? This last 2 seasons sucked, but they're going to do some more stuff. They're going to, and it was just completely like just blah. The response was just like flatline. And you want to come out of that as a fan feeling like, okay, next year's the year. Next year's the year. They're going to do some stuff. And it just, the way they ended the season and the response to the end of the season just makes you feel completely the opposite of that, at least for me.
Well, and that's what I was saying is everything that Mike Brown said there, I agree with. There's nothing he said that I don't agree with. He's right on all of those facets. And that's the reason that I do have some optimism going into next year. And I actually think the coaching staff could turn out to be decent. Turner was the one change I wanted to see. I think we all wanted to see. And it sounds like that's going to happen. But as the owner, you can't say that. That can't be your statement, right? I agree with everything he said. And what he said is the reason why I do have some optimism. But to Mickey's point, the owner there has to come out and just say, this was unacceptable. We will change it. This will not be acceptable going forward.
Has he ever said that?
No, he hasn't.
He's never said that in the 30 plus years he's owned the team.
Right. And that's where the problem comes in at. Like I said, nothing he said I disagree with. He is right there. You don't want to give him excuses, but look, when you lose your quarterback and all the guys that did lose, there's an impact to that, right? We don't want to admit it, but there is. But that can't be your statement to your fans, right? You can think that all you want. That can be the conversation inside the building. That just can't be the statement that goes out to your fans.
And that's why people think he doesn't care.
Right.
To me, it is extremely tone deaf. I still can't believe. I can't believe I seriously think the reason why this coaching staff is staying on is because he doesn't want to pay for two coaches. He doesn't want to pay the salaries of two coaches.
I'll disagree with that a little bit here, Nick. I was pissed to see that Lou Anarumo was coming back, but the more I think about it, the more I see things online there is the question of who would come in this situation. And would it be better than what you're getting with getting Lou Anarumo back? I mean, no one's going to come into a hot seat, Zach Taylor, and want to be, and not know that their job is safe. So what good defensive coordinator that we're going to want is going to come into that situation. And so it may be a situation where he's looking at it and say, I have to stick with him because I can't get any better. I'm not saying that's a great position to be in, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're not wrong, but that's a terrible line of reasoning. I mean, you're not wrong, but I mean that is, like Nick said, that's a terrible position to be in if that is indeed true.
Terrible position, but if change for the sake of change doesn't make the team better. If you're changing because
it's not for the sake of change, it's change because what's you've been doing isn't working. It's not change for the sake of change. Like, to me, it's you've had 2 years to show whether or not you have the chops to be an NFL head coach. And I don't think 6 wins shows you that. Marvin Lewis in his first year as a head coach with the Cincinnati Bengals won 8 freaking games with a team probably a lot worse than this one. I mean, John Kitna was the quarterback. And I'm not trying to rip on John Kitna. I don't know. I guess you could say, well, yeah, John Kitna is better than Brandon Allen. Okay, but I don't know. To me, he has not shown, Zach Taylor has not shown through 2 seasons that he has the ability to lead an NFL franchise. That's just how I feel personally, just from watching the games. I mean, I'd love to go back and look, and I'm sure there's been statistics and somebody's gone and done the research on this, but how many times since the NFL went to the 8 divisions, right? That a divisional opponent held you to 6 points or less for the season. Like, I'm pretty sure. I don't know if that's ever happened. The Ravens basically had 2 shutouts of the Bengals this year, 2 meaningless field goals. Has that to me? I don't know. It's the last game of the year.
You go back to last year, Nick, 27-3 against the Steelers on Monday night. Remember that one? I mean, just 10 points against the Steelers the second time around. I mean, there's just some abysmal offensive performances, to your point.
And it's not. Look, I get that if you don't think you can find anybody else better as defensive coordinator, I disagree. I think there are better defensive coordinators out there, but I just don't think.
Yeah, but I didn't say that.
No. I agree with
it's better that would come.
Right.
That's a whole different. Yeah.
Where I have an issue is how is Zach Taylor not stepping up and saying, and not seeing the issue? Like, Lou, you didn't do a good enough job this year. You should not be bad. Like, if I'm Zach Taylor, I'm trying to find better coaches to make our team better. How is it that he sees that what he did this year was good? What they had one seriously good game where they played really well? The Steelers game? That was probably it, right? Can you think of any other games defensively they played well? I guess you could say the Chargers in week 1. Maybe.
I brought it up before. You guys didn't want to hear it, but the 4 games leading up to that Steelers game, their defense wasn't bad either.
But who were they playing?
Well, I mean, if we're not going to give them the excuse
Okay,
they had injuries, we can't say, well, who did they play? I mean, because we were all praising them last week when the offense looked good against the Texans, so we can't say, oh, we're not going to give them the excuse of they didn't have their players, and then say, oh, but when you did play well, who were you playing?
My thing with Lou Anarumo, go ahead, Nick.
No, AC, go ahead. You go.
Just my thing with Lou Anarumo. It's not so much, some of those point differentials are a little bit misleading over the last couple of years because there were backup quarterbacks that turned the ball over that became pick sixes, fumbles for touchdowns, all that kind of stuff. So you look at some of that and you go, okay, well, that's not really a defensive score that led up. They haven't ranked well at all in the last 2 years under Lou Anarumo. Slightly better, like in the high 20s this year in a lot of metrics, as opposed to the low 30s last year. My thing, though, with it, and it's a microcosm of the entire organization, is that his defense largely shrinks in the critical moments in games. Absolutely shrink. You can go back to the Philly game that they tied. You can go back to the second Cleveland game that they lost after taking the lead. You can go back to all the Colts game after what were they up 21-0 in that one? You can go back to all of those and you say, you know what? Situational football is not what's being preached here on defense. And it's not. And if it's being preached, it's not being executed. So you can blame the injuries, you can blame all this other stuff, but when the critical situations are there in the game, the defense largely has not stepped up. That's my problem with Lou Anarumo returning to the Bengals. It's the situational football aspect.
Well, that was the same complaint, and you and I have had that conversation before with Mike Zimmer, if you remember correctly. When they got bounced out of the playoffs every year, go back and look at their rushing stats. Mike Zimmer's teams also shrunk on those stages against the Texans, against the Chargers when the Chargers revitalized the career of who was that? Ronnie Brown, who went for like 120 yards against us. I mean, if you remember, I still have visions of whoever that safety was trying to push Arian Foster out of bounds with his ass back in 2012 or whatever it was. Mike Zimmer's defenses in the big games really shrunk too. So, look, I'm not defending Lou Anarumo. Okay, that's not the. I'm just saying, I think the reason he's back is because they didn't think that bringing in someone new was a better option. I'm sorry, bringing in who they could get was going to be a better option than sticking with Lou.
And see, this is where I disagree with this. I with the move. I think what they needed to do was get rid of Lou, get a defensive coordinator that has had experience as a head coach in this league. Because 6 games in the next season, if they're 0-6, 1-5, you got to pull the plug. And now who's on the staff that can coach this team for the rest of the season? Darren Simmons? Is that the guy? I mean, if he was such a great head coach potentially, why isn't he out there interviewing for head coaching gigs? You never hear that. Maybe he is and we don't know about it, but he's not one of those names on the short list, right?
He was internally.
Right. But so that's what I'm saying. I would go out and get a defensive coordinator that has head coaching experience. John in the chat says Wade Phillips. He's a much better defensive coordinator than Lou Anarumo. He's sitting on the sideline, not coaching. I think he could do a better job. I really do. I know the scheme is different, but
that's what I'm saying, Nick. I agree with you. That's who I would go get. But what I'm saying is, would Wade Phillips come as a defensive coordinator under Zach Taylor, knowing the situation, that Zach Taylor's on the hot seat, likely to get fired. That's my point. I agree with you. I'd much rather have Wade Phillips than Lou Anarumo.
Maybe the bigger issue is who wants to come here.
That's what. Yeah.
At all, like even if there's a new coach next year. I mean, didn't Zach Taylor have a hard time getting a defensive coordinator to come to the Bengals originally?
And he did interview Del Rio, who was that defensive coordinator with the head coaching experience.
And Capers.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then all this leads back to one area, right? One thing, Mike Brown. Oh my goodness. Yeah, clearly we're frustrated. A lot of it has come out tonight here on the show, rightly so. This is why we're here. We needed a vent. Gus Bradley in the chat from Robbie Lewis. Apparently he's a Burrow family friend too. Maybe Burrow's dad can come and be the defensive coordinator. He did that at OU. Right, Mick?
That's right.
Those stout defenses, the Bobcats.
Dial him up in the alumni phone book.
I got his number in here somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just very frustrated. Very frustrated. I was disappointed. I thought, look, I don't want for people to lose their jobs, especially now with everything going on in the world. But I was really disappointed when I thought there was a glimmer of hope for us Bengals fans that maybe Mike would see the error of his way. But nope, didn't happen.
It's the fans' fault.
You asked for this.
It is the fans' fault.
You might earn your stripes, but Tigers don't change their stripes, Nick. See what I did there, AC?
Love it.
One more cliche.
Captain Cliche. I love it.
Oh, man. So I think it's time we wrap things up. It's been an hour. We can't make any predictions. Do you want to do maybe Super Bowl guesses before the playoffs start? Who's going to be your Super Bowl winner, Scott?
Oh, I was getting ready to predict the wins next season. Super Bowl
We
winner.
got plenty of time to do that. Let's see who they draft and sign or don't sign in free agency.
I think the team I'm going to be rooting for, at least, is the Bengals East, the Buffalo Bills. I've watched them a couple of times this year. They're fun to watch. It's another fan base that's had a lot of terrible seasons like us. It's a fun team to get behind. So, and I think they can win too. I think they are going to give the Chiefs the best run for their money if they match up against them in the AFC championship. So I'll say the Bills.
And they have almost as long of a playoff win drought as we do, right? Hasn't it been since the 90s?
It's been long, right? It was.
It's got to be because they just made it last year for the first time in a few years.
Since the
Or 2
Music
years
City
ago.
Miracle, I think.
Yeah, the Music City Miracle were
They lost that game. So
game. Could it be Jim Kelly and the Bills during those Super Bowl runs of the 90s?
it'd have to be, right?
Might be. Man, John also agrees with you, Scott. He's rooting for the Bills. I know where Mickey's going. There's only one team he's rooting for.
I got to, right? I got to. I
You're
want to
married into it. I get it.
happy wife. What's the line?
I will admit there are, as much as I don't care for other AFC teams, the Chiefs are fun to watch at least.
Yeah.
Because they score. They definitely score.
Chiefs Packers Super Bowl would be interesting.
I wanted that to happen last year, the State Farm Bowl.
Jake from State Farm, yeah.
So you're going for the Chiefs.
Yeah.
AC?
I don't really have a dog in the fight. This is the time of year where like teams that play each other, it's really kind of about mismatches and personnel matchups and all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's about quarterback play obviously too, but sometimes, you think you got this team that's, got this awesome offense and somehow they go up against a team that can rush the passer really well. And then all of a sudden that offense plays poorly or, some other situation, a team like the Titans who are kind of, run the ball and play action and somehow they charge their way through the playoffs and you don't expect that. So I think there's going to be a couple of surprises, but I do think that, at least in the championship games, you're probably going to see Mahomes and Rodgers battling somebody at the championship game level.
All right, here's the question I've got for you, gents. Which of the 3 AFC North teams has the best chance to get to the AFC Championship game?
Ravens.
Pittsburgh.
Cleveland.
That's going to be an interesting game. That's going to be an interesting one, right? I mean, they just played. Cleveland, there ain't no way because they got half their stuff, with COVID. So
I mean, that is tough, right? Like, healthy, though, I think Cleveland, no one can match their running game.
Oh, Baltimore can.
I don't know.
Tennessee can.
The two-headed monster that Cleveland has, I don't know.
Well,
I never. Yeah.
The Ravens have a 4-headed monster. We just watched it.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't count. That was like a high school game.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Bigger question, could the 4 of us held the Ravens to under 404 yards rushing if we played defensive line on Sunday?
No, I would be pancaked many times.
Yeah, but they might trip over you.
That's true. With my big gut in the way.
AC and I still hit. I'll run the safety blitz from 40 yards deep. You saw that play, AC.
I did.
Run a blitz from 18 yards deep to just leave the center of the field wide open for the easiest touchdown pass in history.
You're talking about the Lou Anarumo play call this last week?
Ridiculous. That's
speaking of defensive
that's
coordinators.
blitzing someone from the stance. You know what I mean? Like, all right, right before they snap it, you jump out of your seat and run in and try to sack it. Like, it was so bad.
Go get Greg Williams. He's on the street. Be a better defensive coordinator than Lou Anarumo. Cover 0. Oh boy.
Hey.
All right. So you're going Chiefs. Scott, you said the Bills. And who'd you say, AC? I can't remember.
Well, I don't.
You didn't have a dog in the fight.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think you're going to see Green Bay and Kansas City deep into it. But I don't know. I never count out Pittsburgh. They just know how to win. This is their time of year. I know they went on a little slide there, but I don't know. I just that organization's too well run to, I know they haven't won it for a while, but
no,
they'll make it interesting, I think.
No. All right. Well, it's been a fun year talking Bengals with you 3 gentlemen, and of course everybody who watches live and those of you who have downloaded the podcast. Thanks so much for downloading each and every week. Let us know. We want to hear from you, Bengals fans. Do you want the podcast to proceed throughout the offseason? Like, is it something you want us to continue doing weekly? Let us know. Email us insidethejunglepod@gmail.com and let us know what you think. We the 3 or the 4 of us haven't really. We've had some discussions on how we want to go forward with this thing. Definitely pick things back up during free agency and draft time. I don't know if it's something we will do weekly, but if that's something you as a fan want us to continue to do, let us know. The more feedback we get obviously helps dictate how we do things here on the podcast. So we thank you for downloading. We thank you for watching us live. Any final thoughts as we head out of here? I'll start with you, Scott. Beam me up.
I think after what we saw on Sunday, it's easy to be doom and gloom going into next season, especially with the coaches that we know are coming back. But I actually do have a bit of optimism coming into next season. I know you guys and plenty on the Twitter sphere will make fun of me for that. But like I said, I do agree with the statements that Mike Brown made as far as the reason for my optimism. I just don't think he should have made them. But I do think, if these players are healthy, that this team has a chance to be in a playoff hunt next year. Again, that's a big if. That of course that's assuming that Burrow's healthy and assuming these other guys are coming back healthy. But I do think if they're healthy, that they have a shot at making a run at the playoffs.
All right, Scott. Appreciate you as always, buddy.
You bet. Love it.
Over on the West Coast, Anthony Cosenza. Final thoughts?
just appreciate you bringing the show back, Nick. And if you guys are planning on, if things are safe, obviously, for getting together and travel and all that kind of stuff, we should think about if you guys are going to Vegas, or if I end up going out to Cincinnati, we should try and do one of those in-person shows.
Hell to the yes.
Been wanting to do that. It'd be fun if we're all in Vegas, maybe do it from a hotel or a bar, or I don't know, something, but
do it from outside the stadium.
Yeah. It's one of kind of, something I'd like to do with you guys if we're able. So
absolutely.
Just a thought, but thanks for everything, Nick, and Mickey and Scott as well.
Yeah. Thank you for everything, AC. Good idea. I like the idea. I've done a show with Scott and Mickey in person before, but not you. We got to make that change here in 2021.
I know.
All right. Last but not least, joining us a little late tonight. We appreciate him as always being here. Mickey, final thoughts?
Yeah. I don't quite share Scott's optimism of playoffs next year, but I think we'll see improvement. But final thoughts, like, as frustrating as the season is and the injuries, it was cool that we got a season, right? Like, the way this year went, we didn't know what we'd get in terms of sports. And so it was awesome that the NFL was able to get, or the Bengals were able to get through their season. The NFL obviously still has some life left in it, but no, I'm just glad we got to talk football this year and watch the Bengals do what they did.
Yes, that is a good point. The fact that the Bengals largely stayed away from the COVID outbreak, right? I mean, It could have been worse. The fact we had a season is remarkable, and they were able to get through the regular season with limited disruption. So yeah, I appreciate you as always, Mickey, and glad to be talking Bengals football with all three of you again this year.
Yep, you too, man. Thank you.
Again, thank you for downloading. Thank you for watching live. When we started this thing back up, this was more of the four of us getting back together to, we did the show for 5 years back in the early 2000s, and it was just time. I know I missed talking about the Bengals. I know my son got tired of me bitching to him about the Bengals, and he was like, "Dad, you need another outlet." I don't care. I want to go play video games. So, you know what? We got a chance to hang out with you four every week. I'm so glad we did it. It's been a blast. The season kind of flew by. I mean, I can't believe it's already January 2021. Feels like yesterday we just started this thing back up. And I know we started 2 weeks late, but man, the season absolutely flew by. So I want to thank you three, I should say. And I want to thank everybody who's downloaded the show and listened. Do us a favor and tell your Bengals friends that we're back and doing this show. Spread the word. The more the merrier, right? All right. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Jungle. My thanks to Scott, AC, and Mickey. I am Subes. Bengals fans, we'll see you when we see you. Whodey, everybody.
Whodey.
Whodey.
Whodey.